Nice of the princess to invite us over for a picnic, eh, Oma-chow?
This looks like a game I've seen before. Oh well.
Wait, shut up for a second. Look! It's from Penders. Dear pesky reviewer, my copyright claim has taken hold of the planet Mobius. Sally Acorn is now a part of my soon-to-be-hit spin-off comic. I dare you to read it if you can. Well, holy crap, you know what that means. We gotta review the Princess Sally miniseries.
I'm going to play with the turtle now. Omo-chow knows everything.
If you need instructions on how to get through the hotels, check out the... Wait, what? Why did I even animate this? Sally Acorn. Arguably one of the most important and popular characters from the Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon. When she wasn't getting into arguments with the titular hedgehog, she was leading the freedom fighters in their bid to take back Mobius. Sure, sometimes things would get in the way, like the before-mentioned bickering and being involved in love triangles, maybe a kidnapping or two, but she always came out on top due to her wits, her skills in close combat, and the trust she put in her freedom fighter friends. And also Nicole, her trusty AI. Yeah, I know a few videos ago I accidentally said that she was just a simple handheld device. Kindly get off my back. So back in 1995, Sally proved to be quite the character, which even the company of Sega took notice of. I mean, they let her cameo in Sonic Spinball, so why not capitalise on her popularity? So with the combined might of Archie Comics, a few months after the cancellation of the cartoon, and the two writers who seem to be going on a good streak in terms of making good stories starring Princess Sally, a mini-series consisting of 3 issues was released unto the public. It all seemed well and good, and the higher-ups at Sega were really interested in seeing how the market would react. It's just a shame that the whole thing turned out to be a bit of a mess. Yeah, rewrite after rewrite, Kantarovich and Penders tried to make the miniseries appeal to female readers, so that perhaps maybe Sally's popularity would lead to more comics, or even new games to star in. In this reality, I'm afraid that's not what happened afterwards, but why was that? What was it that made this promising miniseries bomb so much that the writer would be under the impression that nobody liked her? Well, that's why I'm here, folks. Good day all, I am RobotnikHolmes, and in this video, I'm taking a look at this malarkey. Okay, so 3 whole issues. That's the most I've analysed in one video. Because of this, I'm going to go through the review sections of each one a bit quicker than usual to save time and make sure this video isn't too long. Well, look at that past me, you were fricking right. Okay, buckle up ladies and gentlemen and everyone in between. It's time to analyse all 3 issues of the mini-series starring our girl Sally. The cover for number 1 looks promising enough. It's got Sally herself front and centre, with all the action and other characters placed in the backdrop. Let's see, we got SWAT-bots, these eyeball-looking things, and the omnipotent outline of the villain Dr. Robotnik. The skunk dude is jeering at Sally too, which is odd. Isn't he supposed to be the good guy? I was kind of expecting just a Sally and Nicole kind of ride, but it looks like not only Jeffrey St. John is joining the party, there's also these guys. Apparently these dudes are the next generation of freedom fighters. I'll get more into my opinions in the review section. Previously in the comic, Sally snuck into one of Robotnik's compounds with Nicole and got out just in time to bump into Jeffrey St. John, leader of Rebel Underground. Oh, we go right to where the story left off, with them both hiding under enemy fire. The two were able to get out of the predicament thanks to their non-lethal weaponry. Man, I know in the cartoon these guys were dealt with by lesser means, but it's something else when plastic balls and mustard are what do them in. While the two do a bit of casual action banter, Sally remembers she has a bomb in her inventory, and promptly destroys the attacking SWAT-bots. Running free into the Great Forest, Sally decides to rendezvous with her team. Oh, okay, these guys don't have any introduction. The narrative just goes, here's Sally's team she's training, in the middle of leading the other freedom fighters, I guess. Whatever, I'll give these guys a proper introduction if the comic just won't bother.
Introducing the latest in teams of talking animals, the trainee freedom fighters, consisting of Hamlin Pig. He gets grumpy all the time. Arlo Armadillo, a Mobian armadillo that doesn't look like Mighty the Armadillo, despite being the same species. Penelope Platypus, the token girl of the team. And finally, Dylan Porcupine, the small round boy.
I really shouldn't have done that voice for that long. If you think I'm skipping over anything, I'm afraid that's about it. These guys have no personality except for the fact that Sally's training them. Anyhow, back to the story. Jeffrey picks a fight with Hamlin, mistaking him for a bad guy while he in question jumps out at him like a wild animal. But Sally breaks up the fighting, and she appears to now be wearing a purple vest. An artist's mistake or casual foreshadowing? Poor Sally. It seems the biggest element of her character at this point in the comics is to break up fights between the main characters. The next day, Sally organises an attack on the villain's other stations to deactivate Robotropolis's defences. Everyone's all prepared, even if there's still animosity between these guys, and they go right to one of their destinations, which seems to be a temple in the middle of the forest. Jeez, where's Indiana Jones the Hedgehog when you need him, eh? The trainees are spotted and are attacked by the temple's explosive defences. But thankfully, Sally's wits and explosive ball things are able to defuse them. Inside, Sally goes ahead and uses Nicole to override the system and cause another self-destruct sequence. But while she does that, St. John realises they are not alone. Yep, it seems that they fell right into a trap as towering orb bots start attacking them. Okay, 1, Orbot wouldn't be made until 13 years later in game canon. And 2, man, these guys don't look quite as good as they did on the cover. Maybe it's the colouring, or they're just more pill shapes than round, but really I'm just nitpicking at this point. The good guys appear to be cornered by the giant robots, but thankfully, Sally thinks to pry her way into the computers and mess around with the wires, don't do this at home kids, and uses them to trip over the orb bots. I suppose she watched Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back before going on this mission. The heroes escape before the place blows to smithereens behind them and try to deal with the remaining boss robot. But it isn't even the heroes that defeat this one, they just happen to flee close to a cliff edge and the Orbot just kind of stumbles and destroys itself. You're both bad at your jobs. With the threat gone, you'd think there'd be a sigh of relief amongst the trainees. But Hamlin speaks up about his distaste for St. John. Yeah, despite the guy saving his porky arse earlier, the dude is still skeptical of Jeffrey and they get into another fight, forcing Sally to stop them from fighting. At the end of the day, everyone stops to rest at their camp, but the skunk guy goes and sneaks out. What's this dude up to? Well, using a portal or something, he goes to a hidden location, and then the dude goes and stares at Sally in a capsule. Wait, what? The mystery continues. Can these not end in confusing cliffhangers for once? I'll go over these quick. The story wasn't bad, honestly. It's a different team with different priorities, so I can forgive the story for going a little differently. But that doesn't mean these characters are any good. Yeah, I kind of felt that the trainee freedom fighters are very undercooked when compared to the personalities and traits of those we followed previously. They're all super basic. Well, except for Hamlin, I suppose. Like St. John, this guy is also based on a background character from the Sat AM cartoon. I appreciate that the comics are implementing guys from the background cast, but at the very least they could have injected more personality into them. Dull characters aside, I enjoyed seeing Sally be an utter badass. Like, she does most of the work herself in this issue, throwing bombs at robots, throwing bombs into weak points. A lot of throwing bombs, I realise. Jeffrey St. John was also okay. We see more of his smugness and him antagonising the others. It doesn't make him very likeable, or trustworthy. And like, what the hell was up with him in the ending, just staring at Sally's unconscious body? Anyway, I'm keen to see where it goes on from here. I'm practically on the edge of my seat. Story and characters gets a 3. We had Art Mawini on pencils again, and dang, his art still goes well with the action and character interactions on display. It's not quite as good when compared to the story that inspired the miniseries in the first place, but I honestly chalk that up to the colours and the lack of shading, because sometimes the art can be a little flat. Regardless, I've got no issues with this visually. I'm giving it a score of 3. Final score for number 1 of the Princess Sally miniseries is a 6 out of 10. It's starting out alright, but only time will tell if the stories get better. Well, moving on, chop chop, we've got 2 more issues to analyse. The cover for number 2 has Sally skydiving and saving the others from a giant robot. Yep, that's pretty much how these guys are in this miniseries. Even Sonic over there in the corner box is like, lol, take a look at these. What a shocker, we open with St. John and Hamlin in another argument. Only here they're venting it out by hitting each other with giant ear cleaners? I guess that's how they do it on Mobius. The skunk hams it up and proves to be a better fighter, knocking Hamlin a clear distance away. Then Sally up and kicks him upside the face for instigating another fight. Hell yeah, take that, skunk James Bond. Sally plans with the trainees to take down the last substation to shut down Dr. Robotnik's defences. They'll have to be ready for anything this time. It's located on an island, but Sally's already thought of a way to get there, and that's by jumping off a mountain and using stealth aircrafts. Also, apparently Rota invented the hang glider. Why are all of his best achievements shown off-screen? So it's off to the races as the trainees glide through the air to reach their destination. But it would appear that their infiltration was expected, as cannons appear out of nowhere and shoot the mother lovers out of the sky. The only real casualty is Arlo, who crashes his hang glider in the trees and is found to be, well, still in good shape. It just hurts when he moves. Yeah, he's down for the count, and with Penelope staying behind, the others go on to continue their mission. Sally, Jeffrey and the others soon uncover the fortress and are ready to tackle anything. To prove this, when a SWATbot makes his way outside, he just gets a ball thrown at him. I'm sorry, but even with context, this is just too funny. Like last time, the good guys go in and plan for the base to explode, but also retreading old steps, they are suddenly attacked. This time, it's by a giant octopod robot. Oh boy, it's a little too handsy with its tentacles too. I'm legit frightened for Sally's safety right now. Mr. Penders, we're gonna have to talk about this. The others are also incapacitated by the octopod's tentacles. Well, except for St. John, who's too quick to be captured. Thank God Sally's able to temporarily blind the robot with a random can of spray paint. And with that, everyone is freed! Go! Go! Get the heck out of there before it explodes! Whew, thank goodness they made it out. What? I'm not invested in the story, I just... Anyway, with the last base blown up, the heroes go back to find Arlo and Penelope. But the two seem to have vanished. Dylan is able to deduce that there's no tracks left, and it appears they just went and disappeared with no footprints. But Sally suggests leaving them behind, which is a little out of character, don't you think? Even Hamlin calls her out on that. Back at camp, there's no sign of the other trainees, and Sally admits to a confused Jeffrey that she really does not know. I guess even this perfect leader has limits. So they sleep on it, them still not knowing where their comrades are in this time of unease, but wait, who's that? Jeffrey St. John, what do you think you're doing with that flagship character? You better handle her with care, young man. Oh, there's two Sallys? The plot thickens. So it would appear Hamlin was right to be suspicious, as Jeffrey is in cahoots with Dr. Robotnik to plot against Sally's team. Or not. On the same page, Jeffrey reawakens one of the Sallys in one of the capsules. And they go back to whatever they were planning. Treachery plots aside, it is finally time for the trainees to do what they came together for. Apparently what the villain least expects is a raid by daylight, but I don't know, the other freedom fighters had done that a fair number of times already. But while the heroes go and plan their raid, Jeffrey St. John is elsewhere, bringing the tube containing the other Sally straight to Dr. Robotnik. Apparently there aren't two Sallys. Instead, one of them is a robotic doppelganger. And that copy is the one leading the freedom fighters, while the real Sally is on the brink of being roboticized. Jesus, which side is Jeffrey on? I guess we'll have to wait for the next issue. In this issue, I really liked the side plots involving Jeffrey St. John behind the scenes, as well as Sally being an awesome and inspirational leader, even if it sometimes feels a bit overdone. However, the rest was more of a lukewarm retread. Like the previous issue, a large majority of this issue involves the heroes going over to a base, planting explosives in it, and then fighting a giant robot of some sort. It's also Sally alone who's able to handle the threats, which is good for her. I expect nothing more in a miniseries named after her, but it does make the other characters less involved in the action and story. I mean, Jeffrey's still kind of a furry James Bond, and Hamlin still causes fights all the time, but everyone else, character-wise, not quite up to snuff. This is the middle issue, so maybe we'll have a part to play later? Story and characters gets a 2. The art is neat as usual, with Art Mawini on pencils. He got to draw a bit more action this time around, which is always nice to see. I don't have much else to say. The dude's been consistently good art-wise, and I'm happy to see that while the story may falter in execution, the visuals are still neat and action-packed. Art gets a 3. So, the final score for number 2 is a 5 out of 10. A lesser number to be sure, due to how it was mainly a repeat of the previous issue, but we're only one issue away from the finale of this thing. Let's see how the Princess Sally miniseries ends, shall we? The cover for number 3 has a Sally on Sally showdown. Wow, I guess while the publishers intended it for a female audience, by the 3rd issue they just decided to have Sally brawling in the flaming remains of a junkyard. And Jeffrey St. John and Dr. Robotnik are also on the sidelines, either cheering them on or just enjoying the spectacle of a full-on catfight. Is that why you made the robot copy of Sally, you creepy bugger? Oh my god, the plot synopsis got lazy too. Okay, so each of these issues has an important looking synopsis for the story so far and where they are in the plot. It's all written in Times New Roman, but let's ignore that for a sec. Here, they just got headshots of all the characters, and the two Sallys both share the exact same art. Their vests are just different colours. I'm sorry, that's just lazy. So, we finally see Sally, Hamlin Pig and Dylan Porcupine infiltrating Robotropolis and dealing with the clumsy as heck robots. Look at this, it's a full-on Star Wars battle. Hamlin does get himself into a bit of trouble, but Sally's awesome skills and strength are able to rescue him from oncoming fire. Pretty soon, Sally and the gang discover Dr. Robotnik himself, as well as the treacherous Jeffrey St. John. Yeah, these two appear to still be afoot, and proceeding with the roboticization of Princess Sally. As you can imagine, Hamlin is a little peeved about St. John betraying them, so he just straight up beats him up. It seems their brawl is inevitable, but thankfully, once again, Sally breaks them up from fighting. Dr. Robotnik gloats and explains his plot, revealing that the 3 bases they went and blew up were all part of his plan to field test his latest invention, the Auto-Automaton, a line of robots created to be duplicates of the heroes and infiltrate their way into the freedom fighter teams and destroy them from within. I've got to admit, this whole villain gambit here is commendable. He had everyone fooled. It seems like the villain has won, but when he goes to roboticize Sally in front of their very eyes, it doesn't quite go according to plan, because the Sally inside is actually the robotic duplicate. And apparently when machines are placed within the roboticizer, the thing just straight up explodes. Huh. Dr. Robotnik has a metal arm and is implied to have cybernetics inside of him, so why didn't the alternate universe version of him explode when he went in there? Different universe, different rules, I guess. Anyway, Sally reveals that she herself was the real deal all along, and that she and Jeffrey had the upper hand the whole time. However, the bad guy always has a backup plan, and he unleashes stealth bots on the heroes. Great, just what we needed. More giant robots. While it seems to be curtains for the heroes, reinforcements in the form of Jeffrey's Rebel Underground come in, digging through the floor. Them and a recovered Arlo and Penelope deal with the giant robots with what appears to be ketchup guns. And Dr. Robotnik's plans are foiled. However, in a sense of visual deja vu, Dr. Robotnik sets the place to explode, escaping through a pipe ride while a timer starts ticking away. But they can't just burrow underground because their ride is fricking wrecked by the stealth bots. What to do? What to do? Oh yeah, good idea, Sally. Let's go to Dr. Robotnik's stash of air cars and then leave the place like it's a ride at Disneyland. Wonderful, this story ended much less serious than it started out to be. But at least their mission was a success, and as a bonus, they were able to detonate Dr. Robotnik's Auto-Automaton factory. I'd say that's worth rejoicing about. Back in the forest, the team are given medals to celebrate them being promoted to fully fledged freedom fighters. Sally leaves them to return to her friends, and she and St. John share a kiss before they part ways. Wait a second, when were they established to have romantic feelings for each other? The miniseries ends with Sally leaving Jeffrey in charge of the newly formed substitute freedom fighters, and her going off on a long walk back to Knothole Village as she reflects on her growing love for St. John. Blech. The story this time around, I gotta say, was rather lacking. It had things I liked, like the heroes storming Robotropolis and taking on the villain, but it was also filled with repeated, dull plot beats, more giant robots that only served to hinder Sally's progress, and a really empty feeling. The cover promised a much better finale than the one we were given. Where's my fricking jetpack showdown? I'd blame Kantarovich and Pender's writing, honestly. And also, what was up with Jeffrey being a love interest for Sally in the end? It had no build-up, the two are just allies with the same goal of fighting Robotnik. Plus, I'm pretty sure it's established that St. John is a much older bloke. And with Sally being the same age as Sonic, which would be roughly 15 years of age? Ugh. Remember kids, if someone brings you close and passionately kisses you without warning, that's no good. They make for decent love triangle material, but I guess I'm not one of those that enjoy that in my Sonic comics. My apologies, but it was a very disappointing finale. I'm giving it a 1. The art was good, at least this time we got to run around Robotropolis and see a different variety of backgrounds. It's better than the same old forest and temple looking bases. But when he draws action scenes really well, special mention goes to the scale of the Robotropolis raid in the beginning, and the escape on flying saucers in the explosive finale. Also, I finally have a bad point about Mawini's art. I'm so sorry dude, but it has to be said. Sally and the others don't express much in this. Like, sure, they have their game faces on when things get tough, but even during character moments they don't appear to express anything other than happy with half-closed eyes most of the time. I feel they could have done a better job this time around. Because of these points, I'm giving it a score of 2. The finale of the miniseries was a bit of a bummer, because it ended with a score of 4 out of 10. I guess I'm just a bit annoyed with it, because, well, the finale puts the other 2 issues in a bad light, and that's probably the worst thing you can do with an ongoing story. The character of Sally Acorn, the one the miniseries is named after, and indeed, the one Sega and all that were banking on, spent a large majority of her time sleeping in a glass pod, while most of the focus was on the trainees and Jeffrey's shenanigans. If it just focused on Sally, that would have been bloody fine. And that ends my analysis on the Princess Sally miniseries. I'll be frank, I'm glad it exists, as without it we wouldn't have the substitute freedom fighters and our boy Jeffrey doing his thing. But its handling of Sally Acorn is just, well, unforgivable. Maybe a few more rewrites would have made it better to read. Who knows really. Anyway, I thank you for watching this video all the way through, and I hope you guys find the new review setup appealing. In the next video, we're going back to the mainline comics with Sonic and the gang. So stay tuned for next time, where we look at issues number 21 and 22.